Hello again, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin, and welcome back for my video on horizontal weekly spread ideas. Given that vertical layouts are usually my favourite, I did release a video for different vertical layout ideas a few months ago. If you wanted to check that one out, a link to that is in the cards above. In today's video, however, I'm going to be showing you 5 different layouts that are horizontal in design. Before we get into having a look at the layouts though, I wanted to talk about spacing. So down the side of the left-hand page here, I have some different spacings that you could use if you wanted to use a horizontal style weekly. This first one has sections that are 5 squares tall, and this would be used if you wanted to have all 7 days of the week running down the side of the page. In the LT 1917, this gives you 3 additional squares that you could use for a title. Instead of having all 7 days running down the side of the page, you could have 3 days running down the side of 2 pages. Possibly with the weekend shared. If you wanted to do that, then you'd need 12 squares down for each box. And again, in the LT, this would leave room for 2 squares for a title. If combining the weekend or making them smaller spaces wasn't something that you wanted though, you could split this into 4 instead, so 4 sections, each of which would be 9 down. This would also leave 2 squares for a title for the page. For the layouts I'm showing you today, I do have at least one example for each of the 3 of these, where you split it so that you have each day down the side of the page, 3 days down the side of the page, or 4 days down the side of the page. Because I accidentally left my pencil case at school over the weekend, today's colour palette is somewhat limited, and I just have 2 different Tombow shades. These are the colours 526 and 533. For some added decoration on these pages, I also used some washi tape, some torn paper, and 1 sticker. So for the first layout we have here, this is one where you separate the page into 7 different boxes, 1 for each day of the week. This is a nice simple 1-page weekly that gives you a small amount of space to write down the things that you need to get done each day, or list your events. The coloured boxes that house the initial for each day of the week could be extended a little bit further if you wanted to write these out as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or if you also wanted to include the day number. Here, instead of putting in a title, I've put washi tape at the top and bottom of the page to add decoration. But if you did want to add a title in, you could always drop these boxes down to the bottom, giving you enough space at the top to write that out. Here I'm just adding in some random events and to-do tasks to show you what this one might look like when it was all filled in. A lot of these tasks and events don't span the full box, so you could use any remaining space either for something like a daily doodle, a weather icon, or possibly some journaling about the day. For this layout, instead of having the page split with 7 days running down the side, here I instead have 4. So a space for Monday through to Sunday, and then that last remaining space for notes. To decorate this one, I've also used the washi tape again, but also just used some torn paper to make these kind of borders down the side. This one also has space for a mini calendar, and then to balance the page you could also put something down here. As you can see, the lines that actually separate each section out for this one also contain the title for the section below it. So this section for Monday, this section for Tuesday, and so on. Again, I'm just going in here and showing you what this one might look like if you filled it up. Also, just as a reminder, if you haven't already voted on the poll for my March theme, that one can be found in the community tab of my channel. I really enjoyed getting you guys' feedback for February, so doing it again for March is something I'm quite looking forward to. I find that getting you guys to pick my theme really helps me to branch out and try different things. This layout is another one that has 7 days running down the side, but instead of being a 1-page weekly, this one is a double-page spread. For this, we essentially have a grid that has a doodle for each day, a space for recording meals, events, and then a larger space for a to-do list. Normally I draw a layout like this one out with my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, but for this one I instead decided to draw it out using the bullet end of a Tombow dual brush marker. Using colours other than black to do ruled line work in your journal could be a nice way to make it your own. The way you'd fill this one in is pretty straightforward. Given that this one has 5 spaces down for each box for each day, this gives you space for 5 different meals, 5 events, and 10 tasks to do each day. The nice part about this is that it gives you a little bit more room to write down more things, rather than the 1-page weekly that we had at the start. Space is the biggest issue that I personally have with horizontal layouts, so giving yourself multiple columns for the things that you want to record daily can be helpful to combat that space issue. This next one is a little bit different, but a layout that you've probably seen before. This one I have used several times before, and although it doesn't fit the conventional style of a horizontal layout, I am still including it in this video. This one works off the principle of having 3 days down the side of a page to make what could essentially be considered a 12-space grid. So you have 3 grid sections down the side and 4 grid sections along the top. As could be expected, 7 of these grid spaces are allocated to each day of the week. You also have a space for notes, and then the 3 spaces that would be down this side get combined into a section for your events and a mini calendar, and then this last space is left just for anything decorative you wanted to add. Although I do use this section for events, you could also use it for something like meals or important things to remember for each day. For the layouts that I'm showing you today, this one is certainly my favourite. I have found it quite enjoyable to fill in, and that it looks quite nice once it's all filled out. Although in this one I've used a sticker and some washi tape to decorate this section, you could of course fill this with a quote, or some other kind of doodle, or really anything else that you wanted. Before we move on to our last layout, I just wanted to give you a slight disclaimer. I am not a minimalist person when it comes to my journal. Although the spreads I do make, I try to make them so that they'd be really easy to recreate and are quite straightforward. Given the amount of colour and decorative elements that I use, people wouldn't really put my work in a minimalist category. The last layout I have for you guys today, I personally do consider to be minimalism. Though I know there will be some that disagree with me because I haven't strictly just used a black pen. This is probably the most minimalistic spread you're going to see from me. But for this one I essentially wanted a spread that was quite open and fairly clean and straightforward. In this one you do have 4 days running down the side of the page, but the space for each of those days is smaller to allow for this large header section at the top. This layout was very much inspired by Bullet by Julia, and there's a link to her Instagram account in the description box below. Although normally I wouldn't put the checkboxes out on the page before going to write down my tasks and events, I wanted you guys to be able to see where you'd actually be filling things in for this spread. To show you how this one would look filled in, I'm going to go write down some hypothetical tasks and events now. So just for a final flip through, we have the 1-page weekly, the one where the dividers are the titles for each section, the grid style weekly spread, the maybe not quite so, but I'm still considering it a horizontal weekly spread, and the most minimalistic weekly spread you'll see from me. Thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you hadn't already and wanted to, you can subscribe to my channel to see the videos I release every Thursday and Sunday. I'll be back again on Thursday with another weekly plan with me. And so until next time, bye!